These are not even all of the books that I read in August because I don't own physical copies of all of them, but August has been quite a long month for me personally. Before we actually start with this reading wrap up, two things. So, my allergies kicked in a couple of days ago, and if I do sound weird, that's why. Also, it is raining right now, so if the light keeps changing in this video or if you hear something, that's most probably it. If you watched my previous vlog here on the channel, in August I also started a new hobby. I picked up crocheting, and I wanted to update you first of all with my crochet journey so far. So if you watched that video, you know I wanted to make a blanket, and obviously I didn't crochet like a whole blanket in this time frame, but what I managed to do is doing the first 3 rows of the blanket, and as I was finishing crocheting these 36 granny squares, I had this intrusive thought that I will not be able to stitch them together, so I wanted to make sure that everything's fine until I crochet more of these granny squares, but everything turned out pretty good. I would say. Obviously, I did make some mistakes with some of these squares, but honestly, it's fine. This is just like a learning process. Last night, I stayed up until 1 a.m. to learn a new pattern. I saw these gorgeous templates for granny squares with this like sun and moon motif, and I did this one in this light lavender color, and I also created another one in this deep royal purple. I want to make, well, I do have to make probably 9 more because I have 3 right now, and I want to make a book sleeve out of them because I do have like a smaller book sleeve for the like regular paperbacks, but I don't have a book sleeve for the like tall paperbacks or just hardcover books in general and stuff like that. So I do want to make that book sleeve soon-ish when I will be able to make more of these. That would be all for my little crochet update. Now let's get into the books. So in August, I did read 16 books. Well, it's true that one of them is like a very short novella, so it's most likely just like 15 full-on books. And I started my month with reading a very highly anticipated series for me. It's been out for a long time now, but I never read it, and that is The Raven Cycle by Maggie Stiefvater. If you watched the channel or like what I posted previously, you know that I have a full-on reading vlog for this series, so I will not just go into that much detail in this video because I do have my first thoughts and opinions on these books in that vlog. I will try to link it down below and also in one of the cards up here. But yeah, this series starts with the Raven Boys, and then it continues with the Dream Thieves, Blue Lily, Lily Blue, the Raven King, and then the novella Opal. What I really liked about this series, first of all, reading it in the summer has been such a good idea. Thank you to everyone who recommended to actually read these books in the summertime, because it's been so good. It was like the perfect moment to read these books, honestly. The action takes place mostly in the summertime, but also it has this like very sticky kind of feeling vibe. I don't know how to describe it better. I really liked the characters from this book series. They just feel like real people that you can connect with and form friendships with. Like, I love these characters so much, specifically Adam and Ronan. If you know, you know. But my problem comes with the plot. And my problem is really that there is not that much plot, and the plot that we have doesn't really make sense in this like fantasy setting, because in the first book we are set on this path to find some ley lines and to potentially discover a long dead king, but we kind of lost that intention throughout the books, and then in the last one it's kind of like the author remembered that, like, oh, I should come back to that plot point from the first book, and how we got there was a bit not that well put together in my opinion, but I honestly don't care about the plot because the characters were so nice. We have Blue, who is the daughter of a psychic, and throughout all of her life she heard that when she will kiss her one true love, that person will die, and she's scared of just like getting close to anyone because of that. And in the beginning of the book, she and one of her mom's friends go to this cemetery to see the spirits of the people that will die in the upcoming year so that they can pretty much warn them if they come for a reading or anything like that. And she sees the spirit of this boy, Ganzi, but she's the only one who can see him, which is very weird because she was not able to see anyone prior to this experience. And we obviously learn more about Ganzi, that he is in the Raven Boys Club at this school from their town, and obviously their fates kind of intertwine. I liked the idea of the plot. The execution, not so much. So yeah, these would be my thoughts on this series. I am very happy that I finally read it. Oh my god, it started pouring outside. But yeah, if I would have read this series when I was younger, or even like 2-3 years ago, I think I would have appreciated it so much more. But because I did read a lot of books in this fantasy setting, also YA books in a fantasy setting, I feel like this wasn't like, oh my god, amazing, but it was good, if that makes sense. Okay, so this was The Raven Cycle by Maggie Stiefvater, and now let's move on to the first physical book that I read, and that is The Emperor of Gladness by Ocean Vuong, and this book is not going to stay here, I'm pretty sure, so I will just put it down so that you know what I'm talking about. But as I said, this is The Emperor of Gladness by Ocean Vuong. This is also my first book from this author that I read. And I know the other one, On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous, I think it is, was super popular and still is quite popular to this day. I just never picked it up. Like, I was not that interested in that book for some reason. I don't know why. But this is a new release, and I thought that this is a good idea for me to get into the writing of this author, and I am very happy that I did that because I absolutely adored this book. In this book, our main character, Hai, who is a 19-year-old from Connecticut, I'm pretty sure, he becomes pretty much the caretaker of an older lady. She's called Grazina, and throughout the book, they just form this very deep connection of friendship and respect. And this took me completely by surprise, but by the end of the book, I was sobbing. It is not that sad, but just the journey towards the end of this book was just so touching and heartwarming and heartbreaking in the same time. And if you're interested in this book, I would highly recommend you read it, because this was definitely one of the standouts of this month. And I did have quite a few books that I loved. So this is Ocean Vuong's The Emperor of Gladness. Now I'm very interested in reading the other book from this author. I know he has some poetry collections as well. I don't know about poetry, but I am interested in picking up On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by the same author. Next up, I am so excited to talk about this book because I read Holly Jackson's, is it Holly Jackson? Yes, Holly Jackson. I always get them mixed, Holly Black with Holly Jackson, even though they don't have anything in common, like writing style wise or just like by the genre of books, but in my brain, they're just kind of like mixed together. I don't know why. Anyway, this is Holly Jackson's newest release, Not Quite Dead Yet. It came out in the month of August, I'm pretty sure. No, it says on Goodreads it was published on July 17th. Well, pretty close to August, but this is still like a new release, and I was very, very excited to get to read it. I actually read this on my Kindle because I just couldn't wait until my physical copy arrived. And then after I finished the book and absolutely loved it, the hard copy arrived, and it has this beautiful sprayed edges. Red is not really my color. But I do have, well, you can't see them, but I do have the other Holly Jackson books in the sprayed edge edition. All of them, well, not all of them, because she also has Five Survive, but I absolutely hate that book with with all my heart, and that's pretty weird for me because I don't have that strong negative opinions about books, but I did not like that book at all. Also, what's so cool about this edition is that it has this design on the actual hardback, and if you can see here, like we have 5, 6, and 7, and here's our main character Jet, and it's quite fitting that she is the 7th day because she has 7 days to uncover or solve her own murder before she dies. This was Holly Jackson's adult debut, and even though like I don't think it was that adult, if I'm being honest, what I read in this book I absolutely adored, so I had to give it 5 stars. Like, I'm not that picky. If I love a book, then I will give it 5 stars. Enough rambling. So, not quite dead yet. This is following our main character. I think her name is actually Margaret, but she goes by Jet. The action starts on the Halloween night, and I think it is actually set in 2025, so this is set a bit in the future. Everyone from the town is pretty much participating in this festival for Halloween, but she gets home early. She's eating some cookies in the kitchen. She just arrived home, and when she's in the kitchen, all of a sudden someone is quite literally hitting her with a hammer in the head, and then she wakes up in the hospital. The attacker thought most probably that they killed her, but she survived. And now the doctor comes to her hospital room to say that they have some bad news for her. Basically, what happened, she was very close to dying. They managed to save her temporarily, but the doctor is telling her that she has 2 options. Either to give the doctor's permission to perform this very, very risky surgery on her because she has like a piece of her skull that's pressing against her brain or like against a nerve, I don't remember exactly. And because of that, that type of surgery is pretty rare and has pretty slim chances of actually it being successful. And then her other option is to just not agree with the surgery and just move on with her life. But the catch is that she will die in a week, in 7 days, if they don't perform the surgery on her. Basically, her 2 options are die now or wait 7 days and die after 7 days. Jet is like, no, I'm not doing the surgery. I want to be released from the hospital and just go home because I want to solve my murder. I want to discover who was the person who basically attacked me. With a book like this, with a title like this, Not Quite Dead Yet, and knowing that it is an adult book, like an adult thriller or murder mystery, I had a very fixed expectation for the ending of this book. And let's just say Holly Jackson did not disappoint in that aspect. You might already know what I'm alluding to, but I don't want to give any spoilers. I was just very happy with how this book turned out. It is true that in the beginning of the book there are quite a few characters, and it takes a while until you get to know everyone and to remember like who's who. So yeah, I really, really liked this book. I'm very happy that I read it so soon. And yeah, if you're interested in like a murder mystery that is doing some pretty clever things with its settings, let's say, and with its characters, I would recommend Not Quite Dead Yet by Holly Jackson. Next up, I also read a newer release. I think it was published in April, and that is Sangumandana's A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping. I am so happy that I finally read this book. Honestly, I'm so happy that this book was published, because if you read the other book from this author, the one with the very long title that I already forget, it's something with the witches. The witches, no, the Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. If you read that book and if you liked that book and if you followed this author, you know that she was quite open with her pretty much struggling with her mental health while writing A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping, and that's pretty much why the release date got pushed so many times. But I read the book and I am so happy that this was published, and I truly do hope that Sangumandana is doing better now. This book was marvelous. Obviously, it is like a cozy fantasy. The fantasy elements are not that, complicated, or there's not like a lot of world building, which is very similar to the other book, The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. But where this book shines is when it comes to its characters. Each and every character has so much depth to them, and it's very clear that each of them has like a very clear backstory, and they are just interacting with one another so well. It has obviously very strong vibes of like found family, and choosing the people that you want to be surrounded by, pretty much having this very healthy outlook on being an adult and choosing your friends, and also in the same time kind of struggling with your mental health and choosing to take action when you feel like you can't deal with your struggles or responsibilities anymore. I loved the discussion on one of the characters. Well, actually, there were two characters who were struggling with this, but I really liked the discussion on mental health that our main character, I think her name is Sarah. Let me check because I'm not good with names. Yes, Sarah Swan. I really liked the discussion that Sarah has with a boy. I think he's supposed to be like 12 or 13 or something like that. And he's dealing with a lot of trauma that stems from the fact that his parents didn't really want to understand that he's a witch. They were quite scared of him, and now Sarah is taking care of this boy, and he bottled up all of these like negative feelings when it comes to his parents, his family, and when it comes to being accepted for who he is. Obviously, that's like a metaphor on sexuality, race, and things that we have in our real world as well. But I really appreciated how that was handled. I think it was just marvelous to have that subplot in the book. I really loved this newer release from Sangumandana. It is very like on the nose, but in the same time, I think it was tackled very well. Next up, I read another book that I don't have a physical copy of, and I desperately want to have it. Unfortunately, I can't find it anywhere right now. And that book is A Curious Beginning by Diana Rayborn. This is the first book in the Veronica Speedwell murder mystery series. This book was in equal parts exactly what I expected and nothing like what I expected. Basically, we are set in the Victorian era of London in 1887. And we are following our main character, Veronica, who is trying to solve this murder. But in solving that murder, she might uncover something that's pertained to her own life. Obviously, this is just like the beginning of the series. I think there are 9 books, and the 10th one is coming in March of 2026. So it is an ongoing series, and there are a lot of installments. I'm sure in the later books, we'll uncover more and more of her life. But this was so funny. For the first half of the book, I was quite worried with the pacing of it because it was very slow. But after, like exactly after the 50% mark, everything just started to move very, very fast. And we learned a lot of things about our main character, but also probably about the royal family. This was so stupid, but like in the best way. And I am very, very excited to continue reading books from this series. I would want to read the other 9 books by March when the new one comes out, but we'll see if that's doable or not. So this was A Curious Beginning by Diana Rayborn. Next up, the first Taking Fisher book of the month. This is A Sorceress Comes to Call. I bought this book very close to its publication date, and I did not read it until this month. When it comes to the Kingfisher books, this was just fine for me. I think the storytelling element and the characters and even the setting was very clever, and I would expect nothing less from the Kingfisher. But the ending of this book was kind of like, it was fine, but I wouldn't say this is my favorite The Kingfisher. So this is a retelling, reimagining of the Grimm's brothers, The Goose Girl, and we are following Cordelia as she is 14 at the beginning of the book. Her mom is a sorceress. She's been keeping her under lock pretty much all of her life because Cordelia's mom has the powers to make other people obedient to her will, and she's pretty much entrapped Cordelia in their house, but also when it comes to how Cordelia is behaving because she's being controlled by her mom quite often. There's like a lot of betrayal and just like heartbreaking things that are happening to Cordelia. She's quite a passive character, specifically in the first part of the book. But her luck is that her mom's benefactor doesn't really want to help her anymore financially, and now she has to basically seduce other rich guy to help them financially. So her mom is doing that. They move to this new guy's house, and there Cordelia meets Hester. And Hester is this new guy's sister. Because Cordelia's mom is trying to seduce, his name is the Squire. Hester is set to uncover what's going on because she's pretty sure that Cordelia's mom doesn't really have the best intentions. And they might potentially team up in order to defeat Cordelia's mom. As I said, like the setting and how this story was told, and the characters and the turmoil and just like inner grief of the characters, I really really liked. But the ending was just okay, and because the ending was just okay, it kind of like ruined a bit, or not even ruined, but just like I ended up being a bit disappointed. Yeah, not my favorite, but my luck is that I read another book from Taking Fisher this month. We are going to talk more about that in a second, but this was A Sorceress Comes to Call. Next up, I read some classics, and I started my classics obsession, let's say, with Carmilla by Jordan Le Fanu. I found this specific edition at the bookstore throughout the month of August, and I bought it because I really, really wanted the edition with this specific cover. I don't know why, but prior to actually reading this book, I thought that this was inspired by Bram Stoker's Dracula, but it's the other way around because this one came first, and then 26 years later, Dracula was published. So this was the first one. It's exactly what you would expect. Like, it's the original and classic vampire story. We are following Carmilla, who is potentially a vampire, and She's just wreaking havoc in this small town and causing all of these deaths. It is very of its time, but it was very short and it was very enjoyable, even though I already knew what's going to happen because I already read. I struggle to remember the title of that book. See, this is my problem. It's one by S.T. Gibson. An Education in Malice. It's right here on my shelves. I read An Education in Malice, and that one was very similar to Carmilla because it was obviously inspired by Carmilla. The specific scene towards the end of this book when they are following Carmilla in those like tunnels underground, that scene was pretty much like one to the one that's happening in An Education in Malice. And I will say though, if you want to read that story, just read Carmilla. I don't think An Education in Malice is doing anything differently or better. It's just like longer and set in like a more modern setting. But honestly, I think this one is so good that An Education in Malice doesn't really have anything over it, to be honest. So yeah, this was Shared Only Fun News Carmilla. I am very, very happy that I read this one, and I would encourage you to pick it up if you're interested in reading another vampire story, let's say. And now, moving to my most recent obsession when it comes to classics. I finally read Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. Hopefully my camera can pick this up, but this edition is just absolutely stunning and gorgeous. I think this way is better. So yeah, I finally read Jane Eyre. Obviously, I knew what this book was about, but experiencing reading this was so good. I loved the way that Charlotte Bronte is writing. It feels very of its time, but in the same time, it's not hard to understand. You're not doing like mental gymnastics to figure out what she's trying to say. I think this is like a great classic, and I honestly can't believe that I've waited so long to actually read it. I loved our main character so much. Jane Eyre is very powerful, specifically considering the time when this was written. I will say though, the ending of this one, major ache, but the journey as to how we got there, I truly honestly thought that she's going to take a completely different path, and I kind of wish that this book ended maybe like 30-50 pages sooner so that we didn't have to deal with all of that. Mr. Rochester, jail. I understand what Charlotte Bronte did with his character. I understand that we're supposed to empathize with him, but honestly, I just didn't like him at all. Also, Jane is 18 and he is 40. Jail. Because of Jane Eyre and because how much I enjoyed the writing style in that one. Also because of the time period, like I don't know what it is specifically, but the 1850s in London, I eat it up every single time. So as I was saying, because of Jane Eyre, I picked up Anne Bronte's two novels. So I started with Agnes Grey. I have it in this really pretty, I think this is the Wordsworth something. Yeah, Wordsworth Classics. This is the edition that I have, and this was honestly so cheap, yet it looks absolutely gorgeous. This tells the story of a governess from the 19th century. This one was very slow, and because of that, I was quite worried that I will not like it. This was amazing. Also, because of its historical accuracy, like I loved learning all of these things about that time period. Immediately after finishing this book, I could clearly see a difference in tone when it comes to the difference between Charlotte's writing and Anne's writing. Charlotte has that broodiness and darkness, whereas Anne's books have that hopefulness to them, and they also tackle a lot of religious beliefs of those times. Basically, all of the protagonists in this book, but also in the next one that I want to talk about in a second, The Tenant of Wildfell Hall, all of these characters have the belief that if you do good things, then good things are going to happen to you, karma, if you will, but in a more religious sense. And that difference is like so striking, moving from Jane Eyre to Agnes Grey. As I was saying earlier, I also read The Tenant of Wildfell Hall by Anne Bronte. Loved, loved, loved. Basically, this book is following. It's so interesting how this story is told, because we are starting our book with this guy. His name is Gilbert, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, Gilbert Markham. And Gilbert is part of this small town, and nothing that interesting happens in that town. So they're very intrigued when someone is moving in this house, Wildfell Hall. She is very mysterious. She has a kid. His name is Arthur. She seems to be single, like she's not married. They don't know if her husband is dead or what exactly happened. And as you can probably imagine, Gilbert is growing more and more infatuated with the tenant of Wildfell Hall. Her name is Helen. There's this whole segment in the book where pretty much all of the town is gossiping about Helen, and Gilbert doesn't want to believe the things that basically the people in the town are saying about Helen. And he then thinks he's witnessing something that involves Helen, and now he's set to believe that the rumors are true. Helen gives him her diary, her journal, and then we as readers get to read Helen's journal. So when the book starts, we are in Gilbert's point of view, but then as the story goes on, we are in Helen's point of view, and we basically get to experience and learn about her life alongside her from when she was 18 up until the moment when she moves to Wildfell Hall. Loved, absolutely loved. And as I was saying previously, the difference between a Charlotte Bronte book and an Anne Bronte book is just like absolutely crazy in terms of their endings. But yeah, this is The Tenant of Wildfell Hall. This one was definitely a standout when it comes to the books from the Bronte sisters that I've read so far in the month of August. I feel like this video is going to be so long. I already recorded for like 55 minutes, but honestly, I don't know how that's going to turn out, because I just rambled a lot and I think I'll cut a lot of that. But second to last book, Hemlock and Silver by T. Kingfisher, her newest release. You guys, this was really good. I was worried at the beginning of the book because the pacing was very slow. The first probably like 150 pages, the pacing was very slow. But in the same time, I do get why that was, because we had to set up this world and the characters and how certain things work. And then after you learn all of that, you're just like sent on this spiral of a plot. It's the best way that I can describe it. Honestly, I don't even know if I want to tell you what happens further on in the book, because at the beginning of the story, we are following our main character, healer Anja, or Anja. I don't know how to pronounce her name. It's Anja, so I'm pretty sure it's Anja, but I might be wrong on that one. So Anja is a healer. Well, that's the term that most people use, but in reality, she's just researching poison and antidotes for said poison, because in her childhood, her cousin pretty much died because he ate accidentally hemlock, and hemlock didn't really have any known cure. So she set on this path to research poison in order to find a cure for hemlock poisoning. Fast forward some years, I think she's currently 32 or 35, something like that. in typical Kingfisher fashion, obviously. I love the fact that pretty much all of her main characters are 30 and older rather than 20 and older. That really, really stands out in all of her books. Healer Anja one day hears someone knocking at her door, and surprise, surprise, is the king of the land asking for her help because he thinks that someone is poisoning his only daughter left. Her name is Snow. If you don't know, this is a Snow White retelling. But I wouldn't count that much on the Snow White plot because even though you knowing that this is a Snow White retelling tells you who the villain is or like who the antagonist is, it tells you only 50% of what you need to know. Obviously, this is turned on its head, and we do have kind of like a different thing that's going on. Like, it is what you would guess, but in the same time, it is not. And I know that doesn't make sense, but you have to read the book for that. But yeah, now Anja is going to where Snow is currently living because the king was very scared that someone was poisoning her, and she moved from the palace to this remote location in the middle of the desert. Honestly, this book, like the setting of it, this doesn't have anything to do with the plot of the story, but this setting reminded me of that one Totally Spies episode. I think it was in season 1, like Princess for a Day or something like that, when the girls have to go to this country, whatever location in the middle of the desert because someone was trying to kidnap the princess of the land because she wanted to sign a peace treaty with a neighboring kingdom or country, and then they discovered that the person responsible for the kidnapping was the princess's sister because her sister wanted to sell military weapons to another country. Anyway, that's not important for this book, but that setting, like, that's how I envisioned the desert and like the house and everything. So yeah, now Healer Anja is going to pretty much see if there's something wrong with Snow and if she was poisoned or not, because Anja is pretty sure that Snow wasn't actually poisoned. In her research, turns out that not a lot of people are actually poisoned and there's something else going on. She's going there, she sees all of these like weird things, and she almost has the impression that Snow knows what's going on, but she's not telling anyone. And things are escalating from here. We have a guard who might potentially be Anja's love interest, but that's not the focus of the story at all. And yeah, this was a very, very good book, in my opinion, from The Kingfisher, Hemlock, and Silver. Very happy with how much I liked this one. And last but not least, and I can't believe that my battery didn't run out yet, I read Immortal by Sulin Tan. This is set in the same universe as the Celestial Kingdom duology, Heart of the Sun, Daughter of the Moon Goddess and oh my god, what is happening today? Daughter of the Moon Goddess and Heart of the Sun Warrior. I read both of those books and also the like short story novella collection, whatever, that was released inside of that duology. And even though I loved Daughter of the Moon Goddess and I liked Heart of the Sun Warrior, but I didn't necessarily think was relevant in the context of the duology, like the first book could just stand on its own. We didn't really need a second book. Immortal was not really that. Like, it's supposed to be a standalone, but in the same time is so similar. Like, the plot of it really, really, really reminded me of, I think it was specifically the second book in the duology, Heart of the Sun Warrior. I think that's the book where they, like, something's going on with the dragons and they're going to save the dragons or whatever. But yeah, the structure of the book really, really similar to Heart of the Sun Warrior. Was it enjoyable? Yes, but in the same time, it just felt like I read this exact same story in the other two books from the same author. So because of that, like, I'm very mid about it. Like, it was fine. Obviously, in typical Solintan fashion, the writing is very flowery and gorgeous, and sometimes it's like a bit overwritten, but It's good. The writing style, I would say it's good and it's enjoyable, and it's one of those things that is kind of like elevating the story, or it elevated the story for me. But because the plot didn't really do that much, I was like, I think I'm good for the moment. Like, I don't need another book in this world of the Celestial Kingdom. The way that the story is told, like, there are so many very obvious Easter eggs. And when the, like, grand reveal happens, you're almost, like, taken aback. Like, okay, like, I pretty much knew that this was going on. Like, why do we make such a big deal out of it? It was not bad, but again, I wouldn't say I would necessarily recommend this book. Maybe if you, like, really enjoyed the original duology and you want something like that, maybe in that situation, I would say it's worth a read. But other than that, not really. And with that, these are all of the books that I read in August. I went a bit overboard. Right now, I'm reading Calabasas by R.F. Kuang. Well, reading is like a very loose term because I read the first 3 chapters and then I started crocheting and kind of like forgot about it. I started it yesterday, and I definitely do want to read more from Calabasas today when I'm filming this video, because I'm also filming a reading vlog for Calabasas, so I do have to finish it in like a couple of days. But yeah, let me know what was your favorite book that you read in August, or what is a book that you're excited to read in September, or like what's a book that you're excited to read in the upcoming weeks or months. Thank you all so much for watching. Like, subscribe, do all of the things if you want to. If not, then that's totally fine. And I will see you soon with a new video here on the channel. Bye everyone.